Thanks, Erica. Well, as you said, of course, corruption is an issue that Africa has been grappling with for many years. Let's bring you more insight into this and what we can expect from the AU summit in Mauritania. We're now joined from Johannesburg by Liesl Louw-Vaudran. She is a senior research consultant at the Institute of Security Studies. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Liesl. It seems, of course, that African leaders are acknowledging the cost of corruption. This issue is going to feature prominently this year on the agenda of the African Union. But perhaps just sum it up for us. How has corruption impacted on the economic development of the continent?
Yes, thank you. The impact has been huge. I think the good thing about this theme that the African Union set for this year is that at least there has been more and more discussions about it, conferences, etc. Although we are really, it's an uphill battle for civil society, for media organizations to actually, unravel and get to the bottom of corruption in literally almost every country in the world, of course. But as you said, the impact of corruption is felt in Africa so much more because of the underdevelopment in many countries. Here in South Africa, only this week we heard a new scandal around the health service in the Gauteng province, which Johannesburg is part of. In the last couple of months, last year actually, 144 mentally ill patients died because the Gauteng Health Department said there was no money and they had to be shifted from where they were being looked after to cheaper places. Now this week it was revealed that those in charge spent millions and millions on homes and luxury cars and so on. So maybe, that's just a small example. And I think in every country there are stories and scandals like this to tell.
As you say, Liesl, it's pervasive, affecting almost every African in every country, with some of these smallest everyday transactions or just basic ways of getting around, getting by in one's life. Just from that perspective, then, what can Africa do to actually minimize, if not completely eradicate, corruption?
Yes, I think there's a lot that can be done, mostly in strengthening the institutions, making sure that the media is free and can investigate, protecting whistleblowers, making sure that there is no immunity for heads of state or for powerful people when it comes to corruption. It basically is focusing on institutions, and that's where the African Union, which is really norm setting and can't really enforce much on the continent because of the sovereignty of individual countries, it can lead the way. And it is disappointing that since January, when this theme was launched, we haven't really seen much. In fact, disappointingly, the AU Advisory Board on Corruption has now been fingered itself for corruption, and one of the members of that board reportedly resigned earlier this month because of that corruption. And when I saw that, I remember reading years ago in AU official documents about corruption and the AU Advisory Board on Corruption. So it's so ironic and so shocking that the AU really must get its act together if it wants to launch themes like this.
And as you say, many initiatives to tackle graft in the past and even presently haven't ended up achieving much, because often those involved hold influential positions in governments or in institutions and are not held accountable. What needs to be done to overcome this particular challenge?
Yes, I think, as I said, immunity for heads of state is a big problem in many instances. It is so around the world. But for example, I don't want to use South Africa always as an example, but now there are court cases going on with the change of government, with the new Cyril Ramaphosa administration, and former President Jacob Zuma is in fact now going to probably have his day in court. It will take a long time, but that process is ongoing. So if the very powerful heads of state and those surrounding them can also face justice, but in many cases civil society and even the justice system is being pushed, their backs against the wall, and there's a clampdown against civil society organizations in many countries. We see, for example, social media. You know, what we've seen in Uganda with the stricter laws for people having blogs or even WhatsApp groups and so on the continent. It really isn't easy, and hopefully now in Nouakchott this week and the beginning of next week, we'll see some robust discussions around this.
Indeed, let's hope it is a step in the right direction. Liesl Louw-Vaudran joining us there from Johannesburg. And as you heard, of course, the issue of corruption is not only a concern in Africa, but indeed a global one. In Africa, though, a big chunk of misappropriated funds, in fact, come from foreign donors as well as international development partners.